should be able to continue to do with essential flex. If we're talking about matrices, our general suggestion would still be the recombinant vitronectin, although you'll also see nice compatibility with Chiltrex. In terms of dissociation reagents, the sky's really the limit. Our general suggestion will continue to be EDTA or vercine-mediated called passaging, but if you're using something like acutase, disbase, or trypsin, those enzyme-mediated dissociation methods work quite well. One thing that I do want to draw some attention to is the potential to pair our triple select dissociation reagent with our recently developed Reviticell supplement for single-cell passaging. I've actually fallen in love with this method over the course of a few other projects because of how well it helps me maintain consistent cell densities. And that consistency ultimately gives me my best performing cultures. It's important to draw attention to the fact that when you're doing single-cell passaging, particularly on vitronectin, you want to make sure that you're using Reviticell, which has been developed specifically with human PSCs in mind, or, if not Reviticell, another ROCK inhibitor to limit cell death upon plating. And finally, last but certainly not least, we come to cell banking. In brief, we've had really nice success with cryopreservation with essential flex. We've been able to both freeze cells down, as well as revive them using the new media system. Alright, so now we've hopefully got a decent foundation of what exactly essential flex is and what it does. And now that we're there, I want to take a little bit of time to let you behind the curtain a bit and provide some visibility into our development process. I'll start by outlining some of the methods we've used to better understand how the system is performing on a basic level. And in the second part of the rest of the talk, I'll discuss where we put the lion's share of the work into validating the performance of essential flex, namely in long-term PSC culture studies. First, I'd like to get you in the right mindset for some of the media development efforts that we ultimately went through. As I've mentioned a few different times, we went into this program knowing that certain key molecules were losing activity when exposed to the elevated temperatures required for cell culture. In the development process, we were able to set up a very nice system where we would supplement various formulation candidates with FGF2, incubate for a period of time, again at 37C, and then use one of the assays that's shown here to measure the drop in activity. One, which is indicated in red there, was a cell-based assay, the HEC293 FRET reporter line, that would respond specifically to FGF2 stimulation. The other, pictured in blue, was an ELISA. It's ELISA you can actually find on thermofisher.com via the SKU I listed there below. They did a really nice job of not just quantifying FGF2, but actually quantifying bioactive FGF2. And you can see how well the results there correlate with the cell-based assay. So if you look at this plot on the whole, what you're actually looking at, as you move from left to right, is our development process as it evolved. And you can see in attempts 1, 2, and 3, we actually weren't all that successful with these formulations, exhibited by the fact that FGF exhibited significant losses in activity after incubation at 37C. However, as we move from left to right and get to some of those later formulations, one of which ultimately became the essential flex media, we see really nice response to FGF2, even after that prolonged exposure at 37C. So once we've identified a nice formulation that optimized the activity of FGF2 and some of the other key molecules that are present in these culture media, we wanted to get a sense for how it might be performing with respect to other commercially available PSC culture media. What you're looking at here are some of the results of an experiment, where we've taken 3 commercially available PSC culture media, supplemented each according to the manufacturer's suggestions, and then incubated them at 37C for a period between 1 and 72 hours. The results we see here are actually quite striking. Even knowing that FGF2 is going to experience activity loss at elevated temperatures, I have to admit I was really surprised to see just how quickly that happens. Depending on your media system of choice, we ended up seeing upwards of 50% activity losses after as little as 4 to 8 hours at 37C, with a measurable decrease in as little as 1 to 2 hours after exposure to those elevated temperatures. Another slightly disconcerting way to look at this is that in the period between your breakfast and your lunch, about half of the FGF2 activity of your standard PSC culture media is gone. Lunch to dinner, you've lost another half. Again, so it's a fairly striking result, particularly in light of the fact that even when we're being as diligent as we think we need to be in changing the media on a daily basis, we're still seeing FGF2 levels as low as 5 to 10% of where we started by the time 24 hours is up and you're getting back in the lab to feed your cells. And just as a reminder from one of my earlier slides, culturing cells in the absence of active FGF2 is going to fairly quickly lead to spontaneous differentiation, which is where you hate to see in our cultures. Now, when I add the essential flex data to this picture, it changes things substantially. For the competitor media, we're seeing significant losses as early as 1, 2, 4, maybe 8 hours in culture. In essential flex, the FGF bioactivity is upwards of 90 to 95% of where it started, even after these prolonged periods. If we look at this from the half-life perspective again, rather than being in the 4 to 8 hour range, which is where the competitors fell, the half-life of FGF2 signaling activity in essential flex is on the order of 300 hours. That's a pretty substantial increase from 4 to 8. The one thing to keep in mind here is that 300 hours is far, far beyond what we would ever allow or suggest that anybody else allows their PSC culture to go without feeding. And that's another reminder, just to end the story on kind of a happy note. Remember that robust FGF2 activity gives you happy, healthy cell culture. Now that we've seen this result, what we wanted to look at was to see just how far we can push our system. In order to do so, is significant spontaneous differentiation in cultures like in formulation 1, where the media fails to preserve FGF2 activity. However, in the case of essential flex, we have pretty nice looking cultures. I do here that in these extreme stress scenarios, by the time we're through our our feed-free weekend period, the media has been at 37C for upwards of 5 days. Again, that's far beyond what we would ever suggest or expose our routine cultures to, but even despite that extreme stress, the system is holding up quite well. And here, if we look at the same experiment quantitatively, we actually see that TRA-160 expression, which ends up being a pretty good pluripotency marker indicator that's expressed on the surface of human PSCs, is maintained quite well in these extreme stress tests, essentially flex weekend-free cultures. If we look at those cultures in blue compared to what we see in Formulation 1 in red, it's really night and day. In Formulation 1, virtually all of the TRA-160 expression has been lost during culture. And now one last point I wanted to hit on before getting a little more in-depth to the PSC culture work. When I first got a look at the results of that 72-hour stress test, it really made me think a little bit more about how we're interacting with our standard cultures on a day-to-day basis. In the best case, when we're feeding every 24 hours, your cultures are still experiencing a pretty rapid and cyclical drop in FGF activity. That's followed by a sharp spike when you change media. You can see that in the red curve modeled there. This repeats on a daily basis over the course of the lifetime of your culture, so it's constantly happening. The cases are different when it comes to essentially flex cultures. The blue line there is a model of what FGF2 activity levels in your essentially flex medium cultures look like throughout the course of a week. First thing you should notice is that the window in which FGF2 activity fluctuates is actually quite a bit smaller than what we see in competitor N. You're looking at really only 5 to 10% level changes in signaling activity levels throughout the course of the week. Now, if we change the perspective a bit and we look at that same competitor N media, but this time using the suggested weekend-free protocol, where you have a split on Friday at low density to get you through the weekend, you see again the consistent and routine drop and spike throughout the week when you have your daily feeding portion. But when it comes to the weekend, it's an even more dramatic and extended period of culture with very low levels of FGF2 activity. So again, low levels of FGF2 give you unhealthy cultures, and you really want to be aware of what's happening in your media over the long term. And with that, hopefully I've given you some insight into what we were thinking as we developed this product, as well as, at least at first, how we understood its performance. From here on, I'm going to be focused on long-term PSC culture work, which is pretty obviously the most important way that we can demonstrate the effectiveness of the essentially flex media system. In order to evaluate that performance, we did want to make sure that we use the same types of tools that you out there are using to evaluate your cultures today. So I won't get into the details of any one particular aspect right now, but I will give you some insight into performance in each of these aspects in the coming slides. So I wanted to start with morphology, and I start here because personally I use the way that my cells look as really a first line of defense and as an indicator of how they're doing. What you're looking at here on the left are H9 embryonic stem cells cultured in standard essentially medium for 10 passages. With these you see the expected PSC morphology, tightly packed colonies, defined borders, a high nucleus to cytoplasmic ratio, nice looking culture there on the left. On the right what you see is a parallel culture, again they're H9 ESCs, but these have been maintained in essentially flex media with weekend-free feeding. Major take home here is that morphology is essentially equivalent. In my mind, using at least my eyes, it's nearly impossible to tell these two cultures apart and then remain consistent over the course of the lifetime of these cultures. Throughout the rest of the talk, I'm going to use similar comparisons to show how essentially flex is performing with respect to essentially 8. And in every case, when I talk about essentially 8, these cultures have been maintained using the standard daily feeding method, whereas flex cultures will have been maintained with the optimized weekend-free schedule I introduced on the first few slides. Now, having seen that the cells were showing good morphology, we wanted to get a sense for what their growth rates look like. When it comes to my experience in cell culture, be it in PSCs or any other cell type, one way I know to get my cells to grow faster, just to give them a little bit of a kickstart, would be to feed them every day. Now, knowing that standard PSC workflow requires this daily feed, we wanted to get an understanding of how limiting the number of feeds would affect the growth rates over time. So what you're looking at here is an example of an experiment in which two cell lines, one embryonic on the left and one induced pluripotent line on the right, were plated at low density, in this case on Thursday, time 0, fed on Friday morning according to that optimized protocol, and then monitored in real time for complex using an incubator microscope system. In the blue curves, you see are essential 8 cultures, which are, of course, fed every day, as indicated by those regular blue arrows. In the red, you've got your essential 8 flex cultures, which were fed, as I said, on Friday morning, according to that optimized protocol, as well as on Monday morning, indicated by that second later red arrow. And looking at these plots, you see that there are only slight, if any, differences in the growth rate of these cells in essential 8 versus essential 8 flex. What we also have seen, actually, you can see kind of a little bit of it here, is that there may be some cell line dependency on how the cells respond to eliminating that daily feed using essential 8 flex. So in any case, I would certainly encourage you to test this out in your particular lines. We know that everybody's PSC lines may behave a little bit differently, so you may want to look at this in your particular lines to confirm. That being said, even when we do see differences, like we do in the H9 cells, the essential 8 flex cultures really end up being only a few hours behind